faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Shinma Book Talk. Today I'm going to interpret for you this book, Gabriel Garcia Marquez's novel, Love in the Time of Cholera. We always think love is exclusive to the young. We relish tales like Liang Shanbo and Zhu Yingtai, the cowherd and weaver girl, and Romeo and Juliet. As the saying goes, lovers shall finally unite. But when lovers grow old, we can't help wondering how much love still means to them. Yet, in 1985, Marquez wrote about septuagenarian lovers whose passion transcended plagues, wars, time, and death, becoming their faith for over half a century. This earned it acclaim as humanity's greatest love novel ever. That novel is Love in the Time of Cholera, our topic today. Colombian writer Garcia Marquez published his globally renowned masterpiece, A Hundred Years of Solitude, in 1967, later winning the Nobel Prize unquestionably. Yet, 18 years later, he's stunned again. Love in the Time of Cholera became a worldwide literary phenomenon, selling 1.2 million copies in its first edition. In 2007, it was adapted for film, amplifying its influence. If A Hundred Years of Solitude is a magical realism epic, Love in the Time of Cholera seems nearly a traditional realist love story. Superficially focused on romance, it risks seeming simplistic. But for Marquez, love isn't shallow, it's life's enduring theme. It makes youth contemplate aging and death while rejuvenating the elderly. Like its predecessor, this novel roots itself in Latin America's social fabric, weaving Cholera into its tapestry, mirroring individuals against their era. Set in late 19th century Colombia, a city torn by civil wars and stark wealth gaps between elites and commoners, smuggling syndicates thrived, witchcraft prevailed over public health, and cholera erupted periodically. Arriving by ship, one smelled corpses before docking, sewer rats scurrying everywhere. Meanwhile, children were still rolling and playing naked in the water ponds. The male protagonist, Florentino Ariza, is an unremarkable-looking poor boy. At 18, Ariza encountered 13-year-old noble girl Fermina and immediately knew she was his destined soulmate. As the novel writes, that accidental glance sparked a love disaster lasting over half a century. Thus begins the novel's cholera metaphor. In Spanish, cholera is a pun, not just a disease, but also a violent, intense, extreme emotion. From then on, Ariza harbored a fervent passion for Fermina, secretly following her daily just to glimpse his beloved. Once in church, their eyes met, and Ariza was moved to tears. Later, Ariza would spy on Fermina, reading under the almond tree daily, painstakingly composing a 70-page love letter for her. Finally gathering courage, he handed it to Fermina, and when he received her letter of acceptance, Ariza read it obsessively all afternoon and well past midnight, marking a year of their mad love without formal meetings or dates. They could only think of each other by day, dream of each other at night, and eagerly await replies. Ariza read countless tender love works, extracting phrases to feverishly write letters under lamplight nightly. 2 years later, Ariza proposed, but Fermina's father despised his background and refused the match, summoning Ariza. He told him, "Please don't stand in our way." Ariza naturally refused to leave. To sever their bond, Fermina's father arranged a long journey for his daughter. Fermina telegraphed Ariza this devastating news and cried all night. Ariza, then a telegraph operator, leveraged his position to establish an operator network tracking Fermina's entire journey. After Fermina departed, her first act upon settling anywhere was exchanging messages with Ariza via telegraph. In her heart, she already considered Ariza her husband. And 2 years later, Fermina finally returned to the city. These were 2 years of unbearable longing. Ariza waited eagerly in the square and finally saw the lover he dreamt of day and night. Overwhelmed with excitement, he secretly followed Fermina, only to find her entering a market, selling vulgar records with her companion. Actually, Fermina just wanted shelter from the sun, but without understanding, Ariza angrily confronted her with cold accusations. Fermina had been overjoyed to meet her imagined husband, but instead encountered icy eyes. In that instant, she felt utterly deceived, amazed how such a cold-hearted devil had occupied her heart for years. So when Ariza tried to speak, Fermina waved him off. No need. Forget it. Later, she wrote, Ariza, what we had was mere fantasy, returning all letters and gifts. Ariza wrote countless heartbroken letters, but couldn't sway Fermina, ending their romance. At 20, Fermina met Dr. Juvenal Urbino, 28, from a medical dynasty, Paris-trained, now combating the city's cholera epidemic. During a house call, he met Fermina and fell instantly in love. Fermina's father gladly approved their marriage and they wed. Urbino was well-educated, aristocratic, handsome, and composed, effortlessly joining society's elite. Fermina marrying Urbino was a perfect match. Their wedding, lavish, honeymoon dreamlike. That soon Fermina grew disillusioned. In marriage, she felt no passion. She sensed Urbino only valued status, career, and maintaining perfection among peers. This man was her father's choice, not hers. Soon after marrying, she missed Ariza intensely, feeling every city corner and past moment existed because of him. Whenever Ariza surfaced in her heart, her present life felt deeply unhappy. Ariza indeed stayed close, stubbornly believing Fermina would remember him, her first love, no matter how sweet her life. He didn't know Urbino personally, but silently viewed him as a rival, convinced time favored him. Eventually, Urbino would be defeated by time, while he, Ariza, would conquer time to reunite with Fermina. Simply put, he waited for his rival Urbino to die. But how long must he wait? Ariza didn't know, so during the endless years, he resolved to act. First, he'd build his career for fame and wealth to deserve Fermina. He joined his uncle's shipping company, homing love skills like writing free love letters after work. He told his uncle, my only interest is love. Even his contracts read like love letters. This once drove his uncle mad. He renovated his house with earnings to host Fermina if miracles happened. Second, he'd preserve his vitality. Ariza had remained celibate for Fermina, vowing to touch no woman until winning her. But once, a desperate widow claimed him on a ship. This revealed his Fermina waiting void could be filled with earthly sex. He then took a 28-year-old widow as a lover for 6 months, sparking an unstoppable pattern. Ariza eventually had 622 affairs, blurring psychological need and physical desire. Benumbed Fermina lost pain this way while preserving vitality. Each affair was preparation for Fermina's return. 27 years passed. Fermina and Urbino maintained surface tranquility. Fermina bore children, becoming a model upper-class wife. Over decades, Urbino proved himself decent. When mother-in-law conflicts erupted, their biggest strife, he'd tell Fermina, it's my fault. He'd be meek before his mother, then turn to comfort his wife. Fermina increasingly saw her husband as a coward, his imposing presence stemming solely from lineage and their revered family name. Fermina remained unsatisfied. Her marriage always lacked sufficient love. Urbino never wrote passionate letters or made Ariza-like intoxicating declarations. He offered only worldly things, financial security and social standing. Fermina couldn't demand more. She silently wondered, do these things add up to love, or just approximate it? Urbino never changed, never grasped his wife's longing for love. In prolonged solitude, Fermina made her son her sole solace. As written, in that unhappy home, only her son made solitude bearable. The cemetery-like garden, windowless rooms with stagnant time all suffocated her. During endless nights, cries from the nearby asylum made her fear her own sanity. Over 27 years, Fermina learned to suppress regret. Publicly, she upheld her husband, projecting marital harmony. The novel states, their greatest victory was suppressing mutual hostility before eruption. Fermina coined her own bitter maxim. Social life's crux is mastering fear. Marriage's crux is mastering disgust. After 27 years, Dr. Urbino learned of Ariza's existence. They met briefly in Ariza's office, now Riverboat Company chairman, while Urbino remained the polished elite. Their conversation refined and steady. Though trapped in loveless marriage, Urbino saw no issue. She calmly told Ariza, "Without Fermina, I'd achieve nothing." Ariza misinterpreted this as spousal worship, seeing Urbino as fellow romantic martyr, two beasts yoked by loving the same woman. Of course, the stronger emotion in his heart was jealousy. He thought, since Urbino loves Fermina so deeply, for my own happiness, this man must die. But though love vanished long ago from the Urbinos, their marriage didn't capsize. Instead, after 30 years, it stabilized. Why? And because with age, they grew old and glimpsed death's shore. Fermina first showed signs of aging. Once at the cinema, Ariza encountered Fermina and Urbino. Her figure, unchanged, short hair, elegant, but bronze turned silver, beautiful eyes obscured. Behind thick glasses, she wore a plain scarf and house slippers. She left her seat. Arm in arm with her husband, she moved slowly through the crowd. Urbino gripped Fermina's arm tightly, directing her path. Even so, he nearly stumbled on the steps. Urbino's white hair made him appear more authoritative, wise, vibrant, even attracting younger women. Yet years later, their positions reversed. Urbino's health suddenly declined into irreversible aging. He felt kidney pain like a sleeping cat inside him. Groaning, he sensed his gallbladder glowing, blood humming through arteries. Some mornings he woke gasping like a suffocating fish. Others, heart waterlogged, feet disobedient, heartbeat skipping. Meanwhile, Fermina seemed reborn, guiding her husband like a blind man, leading his way while carefully preserving his dignity, whispering reminders. 3 steps at the gate, not 2. A pit in the center, a beggar's corpse on the sidewalk. Mind your step. Facing aging's trials and death's approach, they finally achieved harmony and complete understanding. Each could guess the other's thoughts, finishing sentences before spoken. Fermina began finding marital joy, knowing they'd navigated rapids, grateful and ready to face life together, the trials ahead. But just then, an unprecedented marital crisis struck. Urbino had an affair. The small city made his conspicuous car hard to hide the truth. She also found the sneaking around life unbearable. Finally, he confessed to his wife with difficulty. Fermina had suspected already, so she stayed calm. Her calmness only deepened Urbino's guilt. He confessed at church, suffered sleepless nights, enduring torment. Ultimately, they agreed. Urbino ended the affair while Fermina retreated to the countryside, where she witnessed cholera's ravages anew. After all these years, cholera still gripped society's underclass. Gradually, Fermina released the past, feeling life's stories had unfolded like a pilgrim's journey. Each ending brought her closer to wholeness. Soon after, Urbino welcomed her back with a grand ceremony, apologizing. Fermina regained her resolve, returning head high, vowing silently, "I won't forgive his affair. I'll calmly reclaim all the suffering he caused." As for Ariza, like cholera lingering in the city, his love, cholera, remained uncured. No aging, he always felt youthful. But as past lovers died one by one, he glimpsed his inability to cheat nature. Thus, he refocused on Fermina. He hoped to end his life's sufferings perfectly with her. Ariza remained unwaveringly devoted to Fermina. Once, Ariza encountered her at a hotel. Fermina chatted with Urbino and friends, her image reflected in a mirror. For a year afterward, Ariza hounded the hotel owner to buy that mirror. He succeeded. Ariza placed the mirror in his living room, not for its frame, but because Fermina's image once filled it. For 2 whole hours, seeing his rival grow old bit by bit, Ariza would feel sorrowful too. Because Urbino was his own mirror, age spares no one. Though Ariza was 3 years younger than Urbino, as he aged, he no longer felt sure he'd outlive Urbino. At 78 years old, Ariza finally made it through. After celebrating their golden anniversary with Fermina, 81-year-old Urbino accidentally fell to his death while climbing a windowsill to catch a parrot. Since Fermina's marriage for over 50 years, Ariza had been waiting for this news. But when this moment finally came, he didn't feel joy or excitement. Instead, his heart was torn by a kind of fear. He thought very clearly, if he died, the funeral bells would toll just like this. That after Urbino's funeral, Ariza still went to confess to Fermina, saying, I'll always love you, faithful till death. This was their first private conversation in 51 long years since their breakup. That Fermina resented Ariza's opportunism and angrily rejected him. Yet that night, Fermina lay awake missing Ariza. At 73, Fermina was deeply conflicted. She was still grieving her husband's loss and felt her own days were numbered. On one hand, she wrote long letters scolding Ariza. On the other, she couldn't cut off her longing. But Ariza didn't give up. He learned typing from scratch, spending 12 days wasting paper before finally typing a flawless 6-page love letter. He began formally with Madame and signed with his initials, like spraying perfume in his youth. He mailed the letter with a mourning wreath on the envelope. And Ariza did this to respect Fermina and to show he was still young, full of vitality, able to master the latest typewriter. Unfortunately, 4 months later, Ariza tripped on stairs, got a lead cast, sadly realizing his aging, alone in bed, uncared for. He developed bed sores, but once healed a bit, he hobbled on crutches to see Fermina. Fermina seems to have moved past her grief. Her eyes sparkle with a resolve that defies the relentless years, and she's taken up smoking again after quitting for ages. Ariza feels Fermina's expressing anger toward aging, time, and death. This anger makes the 73-year-old Fermina appear exceptionally dignified, reviving the beauty she had at 20. Ariza's unwavering devotion finally moved Fermina, inspiring her to emerge from her grief and continue her life's journey. Fermina decides to take a boat trip. Her son and daughter-in-law are thrilled, hoping the elderly can live their own lives too. But when they learned Fermina invited Ariza along, they were shocked because they think romance at an old age is improper. But Ariza and Fermina ignore the gossip and stares, boarding this love boat together. On board, two elderly folks with sagging skin and thinning hair experience love together for the first time. The novel notes they don't feel like newlyweds or late-blooming lovers, but more like they skipped marriage's hardships and dove straight into love's tide. Like an old couple scarred by life, they quietly rose above passion's traps and illusion's mockery, reaching love's shore. Since they first met over 50 years ago, this is the first time they've truly been together. But their love unfolds against a backdrop of frequent cholera outbreaks. Just like society, they've endured diseases, torment, and death's threat together. Thus, they don't resemble new lovers, but rather an old couple who've already reached love's shore. They know love is love, anytime, anywhere. The closer to death, the deeper the love. At the novel's end, Ariza asks the captain not to dock anywhere, to keep sailing forever. He sees love and this boat as one and the same. He doesn't want to disembark, return to time's reality, or face death. By staying aboard, he can transcend life and death through love. The old captain's troubled because the ship has passenger and cargo contracts to honor. So Ariza orders him to hoist a yellow flag, a customary sign of cholera aboard, so the ship won't have to dock. The captain asked, "Shall we sail on forever like this? When will this journey ever end?" Ariza passionately replied, "Forever and ever!" An answer he'd prepared over 50 years ago. Thus ends the story in the romance of two septuagenarians finally united. In an interview, Marquez said he wanted to depict the love cherished lifelong in one's heart. But Marquez aimed to convey far more than just elderly romance. When publishing this novel, Marquez was 58, entering life's latter half, reflecting on Colombia's century of civil wars, plunder, and epidemics. He pondered love's endurance, crafting Ariza and Fermina's death-defying love from his parents' history. As a central motif, cholera symbolizes both romantic passion and Colombia's suffering. Cholera outbreaks recur throughout the novel's plot. Urbino returned from Paris studies, married, had children, living a pristine upper-class life, yet steps beyond their world lay sewage-flooded streets and cholera-ravaged civilians dying. All three protagonists witnessed cholera repeatedly until Urbino's late affair. Returning home, Fermina saw cholera victims everywhere. Corpses bloating under sun, frothing at mouths. The male lead, Ariza, had cholera, but of the heart, love cholera. From age 18, after seeing Fermina, he often lingered near her home. Awaiting her reply, he refused food, suffered insomnia, then diarrhea, vomiting bile, disorientation, and fainting, making his mother fear actual cholera. After Fermina's father rejected him, he screamed madly, "Shoot me!" He made love his life's work, crafting himself into a lovesick fool. For years, he wrote love letters while yearning for rival Urbino to die. As time passed, Ariza's love for Fermina grew wilder, this disease seemingly more terrifying than cholera worsening relentlessly. He refused to be eroded by time and age like others, dying alone in the end. He vowed to embrace this disease lifelong until uniting with Fermina, Ariza's romantic passions starkly contrasting Urbino's rationality. Dr. Urbino's profession was eradicating cholera. Outbreaks must be eliminated for society to normalize, like curing illness restores health. It was purely rational, devoid of inner passion, love, or romance. He told his wife, "A good marriage's core isn't happiness, but stability." To Urbino, Ariza's love cholera was utterly childish and laughable. He said, "Too many in the city are infected. They need proper treatment." Ironically, Urbino cured neither love cholera nor infectious cholera. He failed to give his wife love, and his career faltered too. From age 28 fighting cholera until death at 81, cholera still reigned supreme. As the elderly couple basked in love, Ariza stood at the bow, witnessing vast forests ravaged by logging, giant trees gone, animals vanished. Crocodiles sunning on the river were long slaughtered by hunters. Parrot calls, howler monkeys, even wondrous manatees, all silenced. Near ports, fish blasted by fishermen's dynamite floated as putrid rivers flowed seaward. Countless. This brutal reality unfolded in Latin America, Marquez's homeland, rife with oppression, plunder, abandonment, hunger, and plague. Here, Marquez expanded Cholera's meaning. He viewed Latin America's modernization as a cholera pandemic, spreading nation to nation, destroying ecosystems, death ubiquitous. With a writer's gaze, Marquez watched this land's survival, ever observing love's power. In this ravaged world, Ariza's love ship sails through desolate ruins. Their earth-shattering love, facing time, life, and history's decay, seems to represent redemption and eternity. They hoist the cholera flag, declaring war on aging and death with their love, cholera. Marquez wrote, "Nothing in this world is more difficult than love. My only pain about death is not dying for love." These words also reflected Marquez's own feelings. After winning the 1982 Nobel Prize, Marquez entered a period of confusion. He said, "I often feel like I'm dying." During that time, he wrote Love in the Time of Cholera. Rereading it later, he marveled at his boldness with pride. He said this novel helped him navigate life's darkest hours. Published in 1985, amid Colombia's disasters, its release stunned all, drawing praise for Marquez's courage, daring to write about love in such times. People marveled at this transformed Marquez. He shifted from power and epics to love, human connections, and private realms. In some ways, this novel feels like 100 Years of Solitude's sequel. It offers a solution for troubled Latin America. Only love, transcending time and death, can heal wounds and restart journeys. With passionate prose, Marquez calmed his inner turmoil and brought love's power to his restless nation. So, all right, that concludes our interpretation of Love in the Time of Cholera. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.